G'day everyone, and welcome back to another episode in our series in preparation for TCF Team Champs 2026. I'm joined by Jacob Duong of Adaptive Strength Coaching, who is bringing his team to Team Champs this year for the first time. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation because Jacob's someone who I don't really know very well. Unlike a lot of the other coaches who I've already spoken to, I know them quite well, and a lot of the other coaches who I'm going to be doing interviews with over the next few weeks. I have a fairly strong relationship with a lot of these guys, but Jacob's new, at least new in the powerlifting scene in Melbourne, which we're going to get into in a minute. So I'm looking forward to speaking to him. How you going, mate?
Yeah, I'm going good, man. Looking forward to it as well with you.
Cool, man. Cool. We were chatting a little bit before I hit record, and you were just giving me a bit of background from yourself. And I said, look, don't go into too much detail. Let's hit record because
Yep.
if I don't know a lot about you, it's quite likely that a lot of people in Melbourne might not know a lot about
Yeah.
your background with coaching. So talk me through a little bit about your background. You mentioned that you used to live in Sydney and you've moved to Melbourne.
Yeah, so I lived in Sydney pretty much my whole life, and then I moved to Melbourne about a year and a half ago. So I already was coaching in Sydney. So I've been coaching for about 6 years now, since 2020. Been powerlifting for about like 2019, about around there. So I already have a bit of a roster in Sydney, which most of the athletes coming down for this comp are actually from Sydney as well. So
Cool.
yeah, good to bring them down for this.
And you said you've been living in Melbourne for a year and a half, and you mentioned that you initially were living on the east side, but you've moved to the west side of Melbourne.
Yeah, so originally I was training at Training Day, Clayton and Scoresby, and then I moved to the west side and I started training at ESS more recently. So it's a bit good there. I like it there.
Good spot, man. Obviously, I'm a west side boy as well, so I grew up on this side of town, so west
Yeah.
side's best side. That's good, man. And you told me a little bit more about your coaching, where especially like how you got started and whatnot, and your background in lifting. Did you have a lot of experience coaching people in person? Like, were you working out of a gym in Sydney? Were you a
Yeah,
personal trainer to
so
start with? What was your background like?
I've been doing personal training like in person, face to face since like 2020, right? And then I was getting into powerlifting myself, and I was like getting into it. I had a lot of people like come up to me and talk to me about it as well. And I started coaching a few of my like friends or like people at the gym for free for a little bit just to kind of get the gauge because I was like I kind of like and enjoy this. It felt a lot more rewarding to me coaching people who were athletes compared to just gen pop, want to lose weight, want to build muscle. It felt very like niche. It felt like out of like the ordinary. And it was like, oh, this is actually really rewarding seeing people who try as hard as I do and helping them get to where they want to be as well. Yeah. So then
So
in I think
you were working out of a gym at this time? Like, were you working out of like a Anytime Fitness or a
yeah,
Fitness
it was
First,
just
something
like
like
a
that?
it was
Or
called Fit Fast at that time, which is Club Lime
okay,
now.
yeah,
Just general PT for a while. And then maybe 2 years after I started doing PT, I started transitioning slowly into powerlifting. So it's been about like 4 years now for powerlifting coaching. Yeah,
I think that's a pretty typical arc, right? It's like a lot of people who kind of fall into powerlifting as an athlete, they enjoy it, and then the clients that they already have kind of get inspired. They're like, "Oh, what are you doing? I want to try it as well." And then you're obviously interested in it, so you start biasing a lot of your programming
yeah,
towards a bit more strength work, and it's kind of a bit of a natural flow and effect, I think.
exactly. Like a very typical like PT powerlifting coach kind of pipeline.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah, soon you'll be business coaching. That's the next step in
yeah.
the pipeline. You'll be helping young PTs grow their online coaching brand. That's the
Actually,
that's the
already
pipeline.
kind of doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's too good. That's too good. And if you don't mind me asking, what sparked the move to Melbourne?
The move to Melbourne, honestly, I just kind of felt like it. It wasn't really for anything. So one of the athletes, Bernadette, she's my roommate. We were friends in Sydney and we actually moved to Melbourne together because she got a job here. And as a joke, she was like, "Oh, you should move to Melbourne with me." And I was like, "Oh, I don't really have anything else holding me back here." I was like, I might as well move to Melbourne as well. I've always been interested in Melbourne. I don't really know anybody in Melbourne in powerlifting. I knew maybe like a handful of people, but coming down here now, I feel like I know just about almost everybody now. Yeah.
Dude, that is actually dope. I love that. I love the spontaneity. I love that. It sounds like you're a go-getter. You get things done. You do new things. That's cool. I freaking really love that. That's so
Yeah,
good.
100%.
And so you mentioned a lot of your roster is still based in Sydney.
Mm.
Are you doing any coaching face to face, personal training face to face,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
is it
I
all
coach
online right
face to
now?
face as well here in Melbourne. I coach out of the Anytime Fitness as well.
Okay.
But that's mainly to do with like just gen pop training and a bit of rehab and movement training for like elderly people and just like people with like overcoming injuries.
Yep.
I do that actually quite close by to TSF in
Cool.
Flemington. Yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah, around the corner.
Yeah, good one. Well, you have to come and do a session sometime, do a casual, but especially
Uh-huh.
before the comp rolls around.
100%, man.
Awesome. Now you mentioned Emily's on your team. Let's go through your roster and
Yeah,
talk a little bit about each person. You know, people listening, especially other coaches and other lifters, are going to want a little bit of goss about who these people are, what their background's like. You know, give us a bit of a preview
yeah.
as to what we can expect. And so you've got a team of four. Do you want to talk us through who's on your team?
So we'll just go lightest to heaviest. So we have Sarah. So Sarah is from Sydney. She's a 57, but only more recently. So we decided to move to the 57s last year, like towards the end of the year, so that we can try to qualify for nationals. She was sitting quite middle between like 63s, 57s, and we're like, if you really wanted to qualify for nationals, like the 57s would be the easiest route for that. And we did our first cut. She felt really shit doing it, and then she adjusted more and more, and then she competed at nationals, open nationals not too long ago. But she actually ended up bombing out on bench from like her bench press not being stable enough at the chest, not motionless. So I feel like she's got a bit of motivation still to really kick out one more good comp before she goes overseas in a few months.
Cool. And so, very good lifter. I mean, when I saw the name Sarah de Blasi come in, obviously I recognized her name from Open Nationals.
Yeah.
So to have any kind of Open National level lifter competing at a comp like this is really, really good. She's someone you've been coaching for a long time, you said?
She's been coaching with me since early last year, actually. So it hasn't been like too long, maybe about a year now.
And
But
was
we've
she
done a lot.
training? Oh, she's obviously training pretty seriously before that, though.
Yeah, yeah. She's been powerlifting for quite a while now. I think about like maybe 4 years already. So she moved from another coach and she was quite injured. And now that she's been able to overcome most of her injuries, she's actually been able to progress quite rapidly, even at a lower weight class. So I think we hit like can't remember how big of a total we hit our first comp together, but it was quite significant. And the last two comps we've had was the one where she first cut and then nationals where she bombed out. So we haven't really had the chance to really express as much as she has based off her nominated total right now. So I
Hmm.
feel like Samantha Huang might have a little bit of reaching to do for that as well.
Well, that was going to be my next point of conversation, right? The 57 class, especially on that Challengers Day, like on day one, is pretty competitive, right? It's quite deep. Sarah de Blasi, Samantha Huang, and even Tony Nguyen kind of talked about Yvonne and how competitive she's going to be in that group. How do you think that's going to shape up? You feel like Sarah's made some progress since that 372 and a
Yeah.
half total?
I would say Sarah's definitely made some progress. She's been very comfortable at her weight class now, which I think is huge. Like she naturally sits quite close to the 57s, where I know that Yvonne and also Samantha have to cut into that. So I think that's where she will have the advantage, where she will already be sitting kind of heavier. Oh, not heavier, but like closer to that weight class in general. But also objectively just a bigger total as well. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's Sarah.
Then we also have Bernie Bernadette. So that's also my roommate from Sydney. We've been coaching her for about a year and a half now, about that long, ever since we pretty much moved to Melbourne. And yeah, she's going really strong. Initially, we were actually going to move to the 63s, so we already started a cut. But then when we saw the nomination lists change more recently, and the groove being moved, I think Constance being moved to the 63s in the challenges
True.
bracket, like it might be easier to just sit in the 69s. She has been going really strong recently, so her baseline overall has been really, really high since her last competition. Um, I think on deadlifts in her last prep, her best like set of six was like 137 or 140. And recently she hit like 150 for six, like pretty comfortably as well. So we know her baseline on all three of her lifts are actually quite strong at the moment. So even if she were to cut down to 63s, I feel like she would still have quite a decent amount of total for team champs in either weight class.
Yeah, so it's interesting that like what you brought up there was about the being mindful about the competitive nature of the groups and whatnot. Noticing that Constance is lifting on day one now. She's a very strong lifter, obviously over 400 kilo total, and Bernadette's also well over 400 kilo total also, but cutting down a weight class, putting yourself in a much more competitive position than necessary.
Yeah.
The 63s is a very deep girls class. Obviously, Shazer is probably going to win that class quite comfortably, and so interesting to hear that even you're um, taking that into consideration. I think there's a bit of a not a stigma, but maybe a bit of an assumption that a lot of the day one teams just aren't as competitive. They're not thinking
Yeah.
in that competitive way, but clearly you're quite privy to the nominations and you're really trying to
Yeah.
just be mindful of your competitive position.
Yeah, I very much want to win. So I think it's going to be very close. And I have been paying attention since last year on how it was structured, how it was run. I came and watched last year. I wanted to submit a team last year, but I just think my roster was not in Melbourne mainly. It was mainly based in Sydney at that time because I would have just moved. But
Yeah.
now that I have a bit of people in Melbourne as well, and I have some clients that are willing to fly out, so I'm like, oh, I think it's a good time this year to actually bring one in. So I've been really invested into it since I saw it last year. Yeah.
Sick. All right. It's good to hear that you're feeling really competitive and you want to
Yeah.
place as well as you can. Okay. So Bernie looking well, getting
And then
stronger, hitting PBs. Yep.
we have Tyson Lamb. So
Mm-hmm.
Tyson, he's been with me since like almost day one. Like he's been with me for almost like 3 years now. So he's a good lifter. He tries really hard. He really cares. His training's been looking really good recently as well. It hasn't been the best it's ever been, but we definitely think that he's still going to bring his close to his total like PB, close maybe a little bit more than his total PB at the moment. But overall, I think he's just a very well-rounded lifter. He's got a big squat. I think in the past, his last comp we did, he actually flew down to Melbourne for this last comp, and I think a lot of things just kind of went wrong externally. He wasn't used to flying down. He was sleeping on my couch, so he just didn't really have much of a great prep into it. But I think this is going to be one of the comps where he's like trying to get redemption from that one as well. Um, in the 93s, I think it's obviously Tony. I think Tony's very much going to win that in the challengers bracket. And then I think there's one more. I think he's looking at third place around there. Uh,
Potentially. I think
he's good.
importantly, it's important to note, like you're kind of alluding to now, though, but Tyson was initially nominated in the 83 class, and you made a change um, in the most recent round of changes to put him into the 93 kilo class. Was that something you were always going to do, or was that a more
Yeah,
recent kind of conversation?
originally he actually wanted to do the 83s. So he wanted to cut just because he's got Europe soon, and he was like, oh, lean down a little bit anyway. And I was like, okay, we'll do the 83s. And we're looking at the nominations and the way his training was projected at the moment. And I'm like, his training kind of suffered from him being in the cut. So I was like, I don't know if it's the best case. Like, do you want to have a good day, or do you want to have a like day where you have to cut and everything? And it's just like makes it a little bit difficult for him to actually find like or feel good on the day. And I think he'd be much happier in the 93s hitting a good total compared to cutting into the 83s and having to sacrifice a few kilograms and potentially placing even worse next to Paul.
Yeah, it's a very wise approach, right? Like, like even what you described about in his previous comp experience where he was sleeping on your couch and just things weren't perfect, and it's like that can really eat into your performance. It can really eat into your lifting. So it's a bit of a wise choice to say, hey, let's like set ourselves up for success.
Yeah.
Let's try to remove those externals and like have the best day we can.
Yeah, exactly. Try to control everything like as much as we can to at least have some sort of enjoyment or get something out of that day.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned Tony's the clear favorite, of course. He's well over 700 kilo total.
Yeah.
But Tyson's best total is 665 at 83. And so maybe in the weight class up, he'll put on few kilos onto his total.
So what was that in the 83, 93?
Well, I mean, Tyson's best total is 665, right, at 83. But maybe in the 93 kilo class, he'll put a few kilos onto his total.
His best total is 665 in the 93s actually.
Oh, it was 93s. Okay,
Yeah,
sorry,
he
my
was
mistake.
93 at the time. He hasn't been 83 since he was like maybe like 2 years ago. It's been a while
Okay.
since the 93s, yeah. So him hitting 665 will be good. I think that's probably projected because I think there's one more guy. I think it was Alec from Chris's team, like Dark Horse Performance.
Hmm.
Um, I don't really know much about that guy. Haven't found his Instagram, but based off his competition total, he's done, I think, one competition. So we already kind of have a bit of an advantage of having the high nomination, but anything can really happen on the day. He can add 20 kilos to his total. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out as well.
Exciting, man. And who's your fourth lifter?
And the fourth one is Alexander Street. So he's from Melbourne.
Awesome.
So he's one of the lifters that I started coaching when I moved down here. He's been doing really well. Since we started, he had quite a lot of injuries, and we've been managing them quite well recently. So he is looking the strongest he's ever looked at the moment. We spent a lot of time working on like his overall baseline. He's a good lifter. He enjoys lifting. Like he like really likes to have a dig as well. So his last comp he missed, we went from 250 to 270, and we missed off 20 kilos because of grip on his deadlift. So knowing that we missed only on grip, not even on strength, I feel like we're going to have a much bigger total than he's nominated right now as well. So even potentially, based off the nominations right now, looking at maybe even second place, next to, I think it
Mika, maybe?
was it Mika?
There's like
Yeah.
Mika and Haynes. They're both in the high 600s.
Yeah. So like we'll see what we can get to. If we can get like maybe second, maybe third, I think like either way, we'll be quite happy with that.
It'll be a competitive group. Like that's like one of those categories where there'll be a little bit more jostling for position, and especially if Alex can actually put on a bit of kilos to his total, because he's still an improving lifter. Like he's been around, but he's also still improving. So if you
Yeah.
can kind of keep up with those stronger boys, it'll be a very competitive group for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I was expecting Alex originally to not place as high in the 105s because I know it is a very popular weight class as well.
Hmm.
But looking at the nominations now, I feel like he can actually do quite well based off his training. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. Awesome, man. I mean, earlier you mentioned that you are feeling really competitive, and you also interestingly said that you came last year. I didn't realize that, and you come to watch last year, and so you're feeling really motivated to bring a team this year, and you're wanting to be competitive. What was it about last year that really that motivated you to bring a team this year, and why do you feel like you want to be so competitive? Like, is that just your nature? Are you a competitive person?
I feel like I'm quite competitive as a person. Like I liked even when playing like games, like I'm quite competitive, like no matter what it
Right.
is. If it's just casual and fun. If you ask any of my friends, they all know that I try really hard for everything I do, even when it comes to powerlifting. Especially my coaching. I really enjoy like I really want to bring a strong team to team champs because like last year watching that, I was just like, this is just a really good event. Like it's really well publicized. It's like the atmosphere was really fun. I didn't watch the challenges bracket. I only watched the premier bracket. And I think it was when Aaron just pulled his last deadlift. I don't know.
Carew,
Something about that was just really,
Aaron
really.
Carew, the from SISC. Yeah.
No, it was actually Aaron Tran from ES.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, cool.
That was the one that placed them in their position. So I was like, this is actually like really hype. I think this was a really good comp, and I like the idea of having a team structure for like powerlifting. The idea of that I feel like is not really seen in Australia at all. Like we have Power Pals, which is like duos in Sydney, and in Melbourne you have like team champs. But I feel like bringing a whole team, something about it, the sportsmanship between like the athletes because it's such an individual sport as well. Like having a team that is actually a team for working together seems really great.
It is, man. It's really, really fun. I'm glad you came last year. That's like such a big compliment. I really
Yeah,
appreciate you saying that because, yeah, like even when I think back to that day two, the Premier bracket, like the lights were out and the competition was high and the
yeah,
vibes were good. The music was high. It was just such a good event, right? It's so
yeah,
competitive. And yeah, to have you guys bringing the team is great because we want more teams in the system.
yeah,
You mentioned that you're competitive and you want to win. Of course, on the challenges bracket, there's 15 teams,
yeah,
and only one team can win that group. But importantly, the top four from the challenges bracket day. So at the end of day one, those top
mm,
four teams will get invited to the Premier bracket next year
yeah.
without question. And so I imagine that's also kind of something that you're thinking about if you want to bring a team next year to try to lift on day two
Oh,
when
yeah.
it's more competitive.
100%. I don't plan to not do team champs next year, and I definitely am planning on doing the premier bracket next year. When I'm looking at like the nominations at the moment, look, things can change. Don't get me wrong. Like we still have time to swap around people, but I definitely think I can bring a team enough to secure close to first. Like I think fourth place, like between fourth and first, is like guaranteed almost. You know. Bold to say, but I do think that, like, based off everything I've seen at the moment. So,
All right, so promotion, so top four finish is almost a guarantee, you think?
yeah, pretty much.
You've heard it here first, everybody. That's awesome. And I'm glad to hear that you're really keen to bring a team again next year, because obviously that's kind of one of my big missions with this whole event is continuity. It's giving you a reason to actually fight for something because you can earn your position next year. You know, you
Yeah.
mentioned how there's not a lot of team events in Australia, and just with powerlifting in general, it's the kind of sport where um, every year on year, it's a very isolated event. You know, I grew
Mm,
up following a lot of other sports, most notably Australian rules football, but it's the same in lots of other sporting
yeah.
codes. But in Australian rules football, you know, like where your team places on the ladder determines their draft picks and like how they recruit new players, which
Mm,
influences the next season. And if you're a top performing team, then you don't get as many drafts, and so there's like this whole flow on effect and this whole like continuity effect. Whereas with powerlifting, it's like, well, what happens at this nationals basically
yeah.
has no bearing on next year's nationals. Like they're totally separate events, and like that's cool too. But also, I like the idea of what happened last year actually affects the results this year, and so you actually want to try to string together numerous years of good results to in order to protect your position
Yeah.
in the premier bracket. So that's really really good, man. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah, 100%. Like looking at I think when I was at Team Champs last year, I actually had Tyson message me. He was like, "I want to do this next year," right? Because he saw, I think it was Aaron Tran's reel, or like the ESS reel they had collaborated, and he was like, "Yeah, I really want to do that. Like, there's no way I'm not doing it." And then just seeing like the plaque on the board with like the challenger winners as well, I think is just so cool. You know,
Mm-hmm.
having a team up there would be crazy.
That's it, man. You want to create a bit of history with this event. So, man, I appreciate your time. It's been really good to get to know you a little bit, hear a bit about your team. I'm glad you're bringing the team to our comp, obviously, and yeah, I appreciate your time today. So, best of luck with training for the next 6.5 weeks,
Yeah,
and
appreciate it,
we'll see
man.
you soon.
Thank you for having me.